Today's episode is sponsored by the American Homebrewers Association. Become a part of the U.S.'s largest community of homebrewers for just $48 a year by going to unitedwedrink.com/AHA. What exactly do you get with your AHA membership? How about a year-long subscription to Zymurgy magazine, the world's longest-running homebrew magazine? Exclusive deals and discounts at over 2,000 breweries, bars, and bottle shops across America. Discounts on Brewers publication books and merchandise. Access to a huge library of previous HomebrewCon seminars and talks. And early access to purchasing tickets to each year's Great American Beer Festival and Savor. Sign up now by going to unitedwedrink.com/AHA and get a year's membership for just $48. And if you sign up now, you'll get a free gift. What's that gift? I'm not saying. You need to go see for yourself. It's pretty great. Support United We Drink, support homebrewing, and support the American Homebrewers Association at unitedwedrink.com/AHA. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the only beer podcast that has its own bubble, located right here across all of South Florida. Welcome to United We Drink on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and now Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and it's going to be a long season as an Eagles fan. And I am joined here by my two co-hosts. First off is a man who now has Tom Brady at the helm, Phil Palmisano.
I'm
Tom Brady's at the helm of your life, not of your football team.
And I'm happy to have him. But
he's a life coach.
I don't know. Bucks look good today. Defense looked good, at least in quarter one. Quarter two and three, not so much. They look like the old Bucks. Quarter four, we're able to pull it out. So,
next up is a man who, if the Bears were a relative of his, they would be a third cousin removed because he doesn't give a fuck about them. Here's Joel Codner.
I probably care about some of my third cousins removed more than I care about the Bears at this point.
Is Trubisky still
I guess
QB there?
I guess. I mean, on paper, he sounds like he should be the Bears quarterback. You know, Trubisky, Grabowski, the whole Chicago Polish thing. But apparently, it all sucks. I guess they're 2-0. I guess I don't know.
Oh, are they? Wow, good for them and the city of Chicago. Well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on this fine Thursday or Friday or whenever you're listening to this show. Gentlemen, are we drinking anything this evening? Because I'm on about to finish a 6-pack of Sam Adams Oktoberfest. And I'm sorry to... I don't know if he listens, Sam Tierney from Firestone Walker, because he would probably say that this is not an Oktoberfest beer because it's so dark. But I still always look forward to this beer every season. Joel, what are you having?
So I am on my second Miller High Life, and in between sips of that, I'm also alternating between some Nestle Pure Life water and... a Boulevard beer in honor of our guest on this episode, even though he's no longer with that particular brewery. I've been sitting on this bottle for a little bit. Boulevard's Rye on Rye Whiskey Barrel Aged Ale from 2018.
Wow.
Still on shelves. Not like I just bought it, a couple years ago. It's still out there. Very fine beer, though.
Yeah.
And the store did all the cellaring for you if you would have just patiently waited. So
Also, Joel looking for that Nestle sponsorship money, apparently, too.
Love that Nestle Bunch of Crunch. That's my go-to. That's my go-to theater snack, aside from the popcorn and the nachos and the pretzel bites.
Aside from all those other things, it's like number 7 on Joel's
Yeah.
list of things that.
why
you
is
eat
it that
in the movie.
movie foods are always the loudest foods to eat?
Right.
Like, I mean, you just named all foods that make loud, impactful noises as you're munching them, including your candy of choice.
I once saw, I think it was called A Perfect Murder with Viggo Mortensen. This is like 1998. On a date at the movies, and I finished the nachos like halfway through the trailers, and I get up to use the bathroom sometime during a very quiet scene in the movie. I had already tucked the nachos down under the seat, and then when I got up, I stepped on this plastic, crinkly, crunchy, and I mean, you would have thought shots were ringing out. It was that loud.
That's what you get for putting those nachos under your seat.
I could put them on the
Absolutely.
lap of the guy next to me.
That would probably be nicer.
Hey, hold this.
Say please. Hold this, please. At least you said that. Phil, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Tazo passion fruit iced tea and a LaCroix as my chaser. So
I am too. Well,
looking for those NA sponsorships this time around.
some people might think that I'm having a beer from I don't remember who it was. Someone in San Francisco that made that LaCroix looking can.
The Papanus or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
That beer was meh.
probably.
There have been several IP borrowing breweries
Theft.
going after that LaCroix.
I
Theft
mean,
is
why
theft.
wouldn't you when they were the number one selling seltzer out there for quite some time? So
They're back. They're back in good graces with me. I left them for a little bit, mainly because Topo Chico was readily available at my Publix. They aren't anymore, and they aren't also at the other Publix close to me. So Publix, yo, what's up? Where's the Topo Chico?
Dude,
But-
my Publix is stepping up the Topo Chico game. You're gonna want to go to this one next time you come over.
Do they got lime and grapefruit?
They've got it all. And I was honestly because it used to be like on a little, not an end cap, but that little side piece on the end cap
Yeah.
where like you walk right by it and never know what's there. It used to be that would be the spot where you could find the Topo Chico. Now it is prominently displayed in the NA seltzer section. And honestly, whether like I wasn't a fan of LaCroix, I thought some of those flavors were gross, but I'll do Polar, I'll do Bubbly, I'll do Aha. Who's the other one? I don't know, but all I can tell you is this: regardless of whatever you lean toward as far as the seltzers, the 8-packs are bullshit.
That's just what I was going to say. The reason I've gone back to really LaCroix is for about $1 more, I can get a 12-pack and sometimes, depending on flavor, 15-pack for just $1 more than Bubbly and Aha and Polar's 8-packs.
Yep,
Like, fuck off with the 8-packs.
Bubbly
I
8-packs
have
right
not
now.
had AHA yet, but since we are going down,
Aha
the,
has caffeinated ones.
Ooh,
You got-
really?
you gotta be
See,
careful.
I don't want that. I don't.
You got to be careful. They're not all caffeinated, but you do
No.
have to like really read the box
Yeah,
because
they got
there's
the
like
citrus green tea and cherry coffee I saw in the
Right.
store this week.
Interesting. It's since we're going down that like budget-friendly seltzer game. If you guys haven't tried the Kirkland pack, or whatever the Costco brand is, family, whatever it is LaCroix in my opinion.
For some reason, I thought you were shifting to talking about hard seltzers there. For a
no,
second.
no. The
Like
normal,
Kirkland's
normal
making
seltzer
hard
water.
seltzer.
I did have the Corona hard seltzer this weekend, and not honestly, I'm not a fan. I like Truly better. I really do. So Truly, if you're listening, congratulations, you're no longer in my basement.
Oh, and I think I said this to you guys on the Slack a couple weeks ago. Friend of the show, Kevin, got a BOGO on who was it? Crook and Marker, and had us over their house on Labor Day. That is hot garbage. That is Robitussin
I haven't had
in
a crooked
can.
marker in quite some time, so I could not confirm or deny that statement.
I know that this stuff isn't my bag, but I keep on trying them because I want something to surprise me. I want something to be like, hey, this tastes good. I mean, those Truly lemonades Joel brought to my bachelor party, I mean, they tasted like freaking lemonade. So I guess mission accomplished on those, but it's
The
still
lemonade line is good. I will I like the lemonade line.
The
Will
citrus,
you pick up the Topo Chico when Topo Chico puts one out?
yeah,
Of course.
I will definitely try that.
Proud of you.
the citrus pack of regular Truly is really good. The tropical pack, whatever. The regular like mixed berry pack, whatever. The lemonade is where it's at. But I've actually been ever since that BOGO on Vizzy. I've been way into Vizzy, and I tried the Coors new seltzer. I remember seeing the Coors seltzer in the fridge at Publix. And I had that initial thought, like, wow, these motherfuckers are late to the game, at least with this particular brand. But then it went on sale at Publix, and I tried it, and it was pretty legit. Like, I don't know if it would be my first choice, but it's definitely ahead of some of the others. I still have a case and a half of the Bud Light, which is total dog shit.
You've been trying
I
to
mean-
give that away on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I might just shoot them with a gun just for Worst Beer Blog, because I don't plan to drink them. And... the Vizzy, is like a complete mixed pack with multiple flavors. There's really no straightforward lime or anything, but it's really good. And the Coors was legit.
Interesting.
And they're in 12 packs. God damn it. The bubbly 8 packs this week are 3 for $9, which means they're what $3 each, and then. When bubbly 12 packs would go on sale for buy one get one free, it'd be like $4.59. So you're talking about 12 for $2.30, or now 8 for $3. Horseshit.
No argument from me on that. Completely in
Same.
agreement.
Yeah.
All right. So we got through all of our seltzer talk there. NA and boozy. So before we get to our main thing for this episode, we are going to be talking with our friend Jeremy Danner from Four Hands Brewing here in just a bit. Phil, one big news story this week that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, local brewery in Miami just installed a new slushy machine. Not kidding, guys. made you laugh. Actually,
That's
this
ridiculous. They already have them.
a big news topic actually this week. And you know it's big because the likes of MSNBC, CNN, stock trading companies are talking about this. DG Yingling and Sons sort of came together with a joint venture with Molson Coors beverage company, which Molson Coors it is both Molson and Coors, just so that clarifies for everybody.
Whoa.
Yes. So DG Yingling, we'll just say it, Yingling, is currently distributed in about 22 states. This joint venture, which allows Yingling to have their beer produced at Molson Coors facilities, will allow them some westward expansion into the other side of the United States. For the time being, most of Yingling's distribution was east of the Mississippi. Sort of going in, and as it is, the distribution networks for these two are pretty similar already. This just allows Yingling to have the capacity to move out west. Full terms of the 50-50 joint venture were not disclosed, but there were several articles that came out that stated that Yingling would still remain as a family-owned company, and Yingling would still be in control of basically the existing 22 territories that they're already in, or 22 states that they're already in. What do you guys think of this? Joel.
Well, anytime we hear news of this sort, whether it's partnership, buying out, that kind of thing, we always hear the nothing will change. We're still family owned. We're still whatever. Some people call bullshit on that. Some people, go along. I don't know, whatever. To me, being family owned means absolutely nothing to me because I've worked for family owned companies and some families are real scumbags. But I don't know. This is just one of those news items that I don't particularly care about. I stopped drinking Yingling once they pronounced their infinity for certain political candidates. I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, whatever. Sorry.
I look at this in two ways combined. One, I think that this is a lot like the, at one point, Molson Coors Miller combo that was a distribution strategy type of merger. It wasn't an actual merger of their companies, but was more of a marketing, distribution, logistics type of sharing amongst themselves in order to everyone be able to compete against AB. Miller was is still controlled by Molson Coors in America, but outside of America are with AB now. But I really, on the surface, this is just seemingly a contract brewing agreement. I mean, this is, they did say that there's going to be a board created out of this, and there's probably going to be a little more in depth than your typical contract agreement, to where there might be profit sharing off of the Yingling that is produced off in Coors plants, or breweries. That plants sounds weird to say, but I think that's in essence what we have here is a contract agreement to where Coors is going to produce Yingling products that can go out west. And it's kind of funny that these two hooked up this way because Coors for the longest time, like back in the 70s or so, was only west of the Mississippi. And people on the East Coast were always hearing about what's Coors. And then when they finally made a splash over on the East Coast side, it was kind of like a big deal. So Yingling has a kind of a soft spot in my heart from being from PA, especially Eastern PA, where they're originally from and where their original brewery is still located at. It's kind of funny that I moved to a state to where they bought a brewery, and they the Yingling that I would drink here in Florida is made here in Florida, not in PA. And so I have a soft spot for that, but it is kind of funny too that especially in the Philadelphia area, Coors Light is huge in the city of Philadelphia. Like over Miller, over Bud, like Coors is kind of the light beer kings there. Coors Light is I think like a sponsor of one of the major sports teams. I know almost all of my uncles drank Coors Light. And still do as their preferential choice. So it's kind of funny that from a personal connection to see like PA Yingling, who have become this kind of story over on the West Coast as oh, you should try Yingling, and Miller was Coors was the opposite, and how they've all come together. One other thing I saw a lot of people talking about on Twitter was oh, it's just another light lager working. Yingling lager is not a light lager. It's an amber lager. It's more of your Sam Adams. They have a light version of it, which Sam Adams has as well. They also have a premium, which is more along the lines of your Bud Light, but we don't see that down here in Florida. It's mostly a PA area. It's apples and oranges really comparing, but overall talking way too much about that. I just look at this as a strategic distribution agreement and a contract brewing agreement.
I like it. I think it's a smart way for Yuengling to leverage size and capacity as they move out west. Worst thing that you can do is open up new territory to then have to backtrack territory and say like, hey, sorry, we just can't produce enough beer. You're going to be out of stock for a number of days.
I think
all
that
while
is
trying to go nationwide distribution.
I think that it's crazy that a brewery of their size, they were the number 2 craft brewery behind Sam, right?
Yes.
They have 3 production facilities, 2 in PA and 1 in Tampa, only in 22 states. That's all they had the capacity to be able to do. That's pretty crazy when you think about it, how much beer. And Sam is in 50 states. New Belgium and Sierra Nevada behind them are, I don't know if they are in all 50 states, but they're damn near close, each of those. Like, that's pretty impressive to be selling or be producing more beer than Sierra Nevada, New Belgium. I know New Belgium's not in that list anymore, but fuck it. To be producing more beer than them and be in way less states than them.
Well, I look at it as think about this from a business perspective. It's my argument that I always have about Chick-fil-A. If Chick-fil-A ever gets in a hard spot, all they have to do is open up on Sundays. You automatically are picking up one additional day. You're selling now at 50, 52 more days out of the year minimum. So your sales are automatically going to go up. People are going to love it because they get to go to Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. So think about it from the Yuengling perspective, which is every time they open up a new state, they're already there's so many people. It's funny because on Twitter or actually Instagram, I saw there was a story, maybe it was Don't Drink Beers, was asking to try and get some Yuengling shipped out to California. And for me, that's weird because I've always grown up and Yuengling, since I've been 21, has always been there because of the Florida connection, the facility in Florida and Tampa. So to hear my friends in college say like, oh, hey, can you grab some Yuengling and just toss it in a box and ship it to me because I don't get it here, is weird. And so now Yuengling has the power to literally turn on a light switch and say, okay, we're going to open up 10 states this next year, and profits just exponentially grow. It's, in my opinion, it's genius. They definitely have partnered up with, a top joint venture partner, and that has facilities to be able to produce really quality liquid on a consistent basis. I don't think anybody loses. What I am curious to see is how this impacts the quote-unquote definition for the Brewers Association, because the Brewers Association needs those cases. They need that volume, and it's the same thing as if Sam Adams was to partner in some other way. Will the BA look at redefining the definition of what a craft brewery is to keep Yuengling's cases in? That's what I'm curious to see.
If this is like a contract brewing agreement, then they should still allow it, because they allow breweries to report their contract brewed amounts into their totals each year. So yeah, they'd be kind of cutting off their own nose to spite their face if they tell them no, because this like, unless I'm missing something, this is not a takeover. This is not someone has been bought. Like, I don't see how they can argue against it. I have plenty of issues with the Brewers Association, and this is like probably one of my least issues with them. Just like, whatever. I don't care. You kick them out, whatever. You only let them in maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't care. But yeah, we'll see with the Brewers Association. Now, Phil, do you have that article in front of you?
I do.
I feel like I remember it being specific brands such as Lager, Black and Tan, and Flight. Was there something else in there?
Oh, the article that I'm actually reading off of actually came from CNN.
Oh, okay.
Because
Because it was only a few brands. It wasn't like the whole portfolio.
Correct. So, but in all reality, it's Lager and Flight are their top ones right now. Flight's their new innovation, which is really tasty.
They're low-cal. I haven't tried it yet.
If you haven't had it yet, it's really tasty.
I'm very disappointed that a mutual friend of ours, Kevin Squires, who works with me at his girlfriend works for local Miller Coors distributor who distributes Yuengling, and they were originally going to bring in the Hershey's chocolate beer, and they did not as the pandemic hit. And I was like, I wanted to try that so bad. We talked about that on a previous episode.
I thought it was funny how when all this news came out that people were excited as we were to get Allagash.
It is one of those weird beers that just has this hype around it, like not from just not having it. Like that's what I was trying to talk about earlier, is that my folks grew up hearing about Coors and like Coors. It's not available over here. And then when it came over east of the Mississippi, it was a big freaking deal. And I feel like Yuengling is kind of working with that right now, whether intentional or not, is almost exactly the same. I think that's all that we have for the news, right, Phil?
It is. Till next time.
All right. So let's get ourselves into the main topic of our story today. We are having a conversation, an interview with a friend of ours, a person who we all know somewhat personally over the years. This is Jeremy Danner. He is Phil, what's the correct title?
He is the Kansas City on-premise specialist and brewery ambassador
for Four Hands Brewing Company.
Thanks for completing my sentence.
Out of St. Louis, Missouri. He is from Kansas City, Missouri, formerly of Boulevard Brewing. This guy has over 15 years of experience from brewing, packaging, cellaring, marketing, and now even sales. Like, this is like truly a jack of all trades type of person in this industry. And we are super excited to have our friend Jeremy on the show. So we hope that you enjoy a talk with Jeremy Danner.
Welcome to the show, Jeremy Danner of Four Hands Brewing Company out of St. Louis, Missouri. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I took an awesome nap this afternoon.
Sweet.
I feel good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Jeremy's been a longtime friend of all of ours at United We Drink, and has known Joel, Mike, myself for quite some time. In the past, though, Jeremy, you were with another brewery. Do we speak names?
Oh, yeah. We can say Boulevard Brewing Company. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. No, dude, it's funny. I've done a few podcasts recently, and they're like, can we talk about that? And I'm immensely proud of what I was able to do there, and super grateful for the experience I had. So, yeah, we can totally talk about whatever you guys want.
Sweet. I really just wanted to bring up this fact that you went from basically the brewing side to more of the ambassador sales side with Four Hands. And as the sales individual of the podcast, I think it would be really interesting to sort of see how your life has changed moving from production side over to more of that sales face of the brewery.
Sure. I have to wear clean clothes to work. That's become important.
You do. It's weird.
It is very weird. Yeah. I could get like a week and a half out of the same pair of shorts when I was on the brew house, but I do try to look a little better these days. At the end of my time at Boulevard, I was, in kind of an ambassador / marketing role there as well, going on a lot of sales calls. So switching to sales wasn't terribly weird, but it's been about learning how to conduct the business of a sales rep. I had no problem with going in and talking to people about the beer and introducing that to them and doing a tasting with them. But when it came to in a sales role, you have to be like, so do you want to buy this now? Instead of just like, hey, that was fun, I'm going to leave, and let the sales guy do that job. It's my job to make sure that people bring the beer in now. So it's been fun learning that side of it. I've done brewing, and I've done packaging. I've been a brew pub manager. I've been in marketing. So now learning the sales side of the business has kind of been a fun challenge over the past 13 months or so.
So you have truly encompassed almost every aspect of the industry, short of merch buying, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And I have no interest in finance at all. None.
All right. Well, and obviously we would have to bring it up just because it is so much of a large piece of our life at this point in time. But what are you seeing through basically all the changes that have gone on since March with COVID-19, and how is that impacting getting into a sales role, more structured of a sales role recently, and then moving directly into a situation where COVID specifically is knocking out an on-premise, which you are the specialist for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, I was
according to your title.
Yeah, no, it's not a lie. I went on a quick trip with my family to check out some spring training baseball in March, and when we got back, that's when everything was shut down. So I called my boss and I said, I just have on-premise accounts. What do I have a job, first off, and then secondly, what is that job? And I was very fortunate that the founder of Four Hands told me that my job was to pretty much stay home and take care of my son while my wife worked at Jack Stack at the restaurant. So during that time, I did went through and rewrote some sell sheet copy, picked up some social media duties. I've been doing some other stuff in the meantime, but yeah, essentially everything was done. There were no bars and restaurants that were open in Kansas City. And then in June, when things started to reopen, it's been interesting sort of feeling that back out as someone in sales. Like, obviously it's my job to go in and sell beer, but at the same time, you go in and people have, their previous sales or what they're doing is a fraction of what they're previously doing. So it feels weird to walk in and be like, so I got these $200 kegs of this really fancy Imperial Stout. You want to pick one up? It's really tough to be in that position. And I can't imagine being the business owner in that situation. So it's been kind of a slow play, just showing support and love to the people that have, been supporting Four Hands in Kansas City over the past year and a half, that I've been around, and really trying to figure out what it looks like as people get back to normal. And normal is such a idiotic word to say right now because nothing is normal. But yeah, really figuring out what does a sales role look like during a pandemic. I mean, we're still very much in the midst of it.
Yeah, it's funny. We had a sales meeting this past week internally, and we brought up the word normal, and it's weird to say that because really all that we are starting to see similar tendencies or consistencies within on-premise business in particular, but it's not normal. Getting back to January or February pre-COVID-19 in the United States is definitely a little different than where we are even now, specifically in South Florida. But, I can imagine it's probably even the same way with you in Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, the bar business has changed for good, in my opinion. It's not going to look like it once did. Things are going to recover, and people are going to, find new business models and ways to arrange their floor plans and, get as many people in as they feel comfortable. And that's the weird thing right now is I ask people, how are sales? How are you doing? And they say we're good. We'd like to do more, but we don't want to do more, or we're in a position that we can't do more. It's a weird time to see, like, I want all the bars that I work with to be successful, but we don't want them to be packed, because then we know what's going to happen when that happens.
You mentioned during the early parts of this that you were doing things like rewriting copy on your sell sheets and doing some social media. So is it safe to say that some of those people who were saying, hey, Four Hands, do you see what your employee is saying on here? They were saying it to you?
It's really funny. The people that think I'm going to get in trouble for being mad at racists are, in fact, tweeting at me when they try to get me in trouble. Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing our Twitter page is our Twitter feed is kind of my main focus, but I do help out with responses on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, it's always funny when, 'cause I feel like I take pretty defendable positions where there's not a logical counterpoint that exists to it. You know, when I was in high school, I did persuasive speaking or oratory, and the coach said you can't take a point that when someone would say, well, no shit, that's your point. So like, if you couldn't give a speech about we shouldn't abuse children or we shouldn't steal from the grocery store, because of course we should not do those things. So I'm always really blown away when someone is like, wait a minute, let's argue the value of racism for a second. And I'm not going to do that. I can't believe that counterpoint exists, man.
You put yourself out there so much that like, I mean, I wish I could buy you 1 million beers for all the shit you put up with from people on there.
My dad called me a couple of years ago, and this is, I was a little more tame back then, but he called and said, I was looking through your Twitter feed, and I have to tell you, I think you bring all this shit on yourself, man. I think he was right.
Same. I'm glad Mike brought that up because it was something I kind of wanted to ask about where, I mean, you were always very vocal on Twitter and always, in my view, on the right side of the argument, whatever it was, whether it was, socio-political, whatever, or just beer in general and that kind of thing. So is it right now, you're so vocal on so many things, and I see you just back and forth with everyone all day long. I mean, is it a combination of just everything going on right now, plus maybe having a little bit of a longer leash with forehands, or is it just, I mean, would you kind of be as vocal as you are right now under Boulevard?
I think I'm allowed to be a little more politically specific than I was in previous roles that I've held. And I just think we're at a time where if you have a decent sized following and you have a voice and you're not using it, I think you're on the wrong side as well if you remain silent on some things. And that's not to say that I could pull it back a little bit probably and have a little more peace mentally. But yeah, I have a little bit longer leash. I'm allowed to be a little more specific about things these days. So I think that's part of it. But then I feel like as a dad, I think that's changed a lot. The entire time I worked at Boulevard, I guess he was born in 2013. So I was there, 6 years with him. But as he sees things and, he asks about COVID-19 and he asks about Trump and he wants to talk about these things, I feel really called to say the things that I say because I want him to know that like I did what I could when I had my chance. I think that's really important.
Twitter's really played such a large, impactful piece of your career, as I think personally and professionally. And you've met tons of people through sort of 3 degrees of separation of social media. Do you have any in particular stories or memories that are the fondest with you? Something that maybe spawned really cool out of, a Twitter conversation or a Facebook?
I mean, I think I've been very fortunate to have a lot of interaction with the Kansas City Royals, not only, people in the front office and people on their social team and their photographers, but players as well. So I had, I was on the field for batting practice in, was it June? It was like late May, early June of last year. Brad Keller, one of our starting pitchers, had gotten me tickets to the game and got me on the field to watch batting practice, and we're hanging out, and I was with my wife and my son, and as we get on the field, they have this little area that's kind of sectioned off. Whit Merrifield was in the cage hitting, and he comes out of the cage and turns and sees us. He's like, Danner, what's up? And walks over and chats with us for a minute. And then Ryan O'Hearn, who plays first base, most of the utility guy, he comes out of the cage after hitting. Danners are here. What's up? And, walks over and chats with us for a minute. And then Brad finished stretching and came and said hi. And which words can I not say on this podcast? Can I say all the words?
You could say anything.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So after he walks away, the people, this guy next to me leans over and he goes, hey, who the fuck are you? And I go, I'm nobody, dude. I'm a guy who works at a brewery. happened to get hooked up with these guys, kind of on Twitter. I was at a ball game one night and I got a message from Brad Keller that said, "Hey, I have a question for you." And I'm sitting in the K. I'm like, they're marching the flags out onto the field, getting ready to start the game. And it's like, my family's going to be in town this weekend. You think you can get them in for a tour at the brewery? And I'm like, of course, absolutely. They said, I'll pay for whatever I need to. I'm like, dude, you're a pitcher for the Royals. You don't need to pay for tour tickets at Boulevard. So yeah, having that connection with the brewery, having that, that profile on social has been fun. So it's been really cool to have, those sorts of experiences, but then it's also been really fun to talk to people who work at breweries that I previously hadn't heard of, with as many breweries as there are in the country. You guys experience this probably, near your hometown. Is there breweries that are 20 minutes away that you've not heard of yet? It's always fun to hear people say, I read this thing you said 5 years ago, and it really struck me regarding quality or regarding the way a brewery personnel should interact with someone at a beer fest. And that means a lot too, to get to be told that like something I said meant something to someone. I think like that's what we're all hoping to do on Twitter, is to say something at some point that resonates with someone that's not, our friends and our immediate contacts, to feel like, not to, be grandiose about it, but feel like that you helped, inspire someone. I think that's really cool when you have that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not as cool as, talking to baseball players on the field, but it's pretty cool.
Well, I'd say you definitely had that influence on me because, and I think Mike can attest to this as well, at our first brewery. And that's kind of why he asked earlier about, whether we can talk about it or not, because we kind of have a policy here where Mike and I have worked at a couple places together. So we just say our previous brewery. We try not to give them any free advertising. But, we were working for someone who, definitely, all credit to him, changed our lives in a way by bringing us into the fold and getting us out of cubicle hell into, the world of beer. And our careers have only gotten better since. But at the same time, we're kind of working for someone who wasn't very quality focused and had a little bit of an arrogance to him. And I think like in the beginning, we were learning a lot of bad ways to behave, whether it was kind of shunning people who they'd be like, "Oh, what's in this beer?" And the boss would want to keep it all secretive. So we would kind of have to too, and give that douchey kind of, "Oh, it's just the sea hops" response. And I don't know. This is not really a question. It's more of just a statement and maybe a little bit of brown nosing on my part, but I really appreciate all your candor and helping instill a lot of the values that I think are right in me in regards to the beer. And it's just, you always seem to put everything in a way that for some reason I just can't say properly. Like if the argument about exploding cans comes up again, I'll be like, dropping every F-bomb there is and just sort of bulldozing my way through the argument. And you're more methodical and intellectual about it. So I appreciate the backup.
Dude, and I want to bulldoze those arguments every time too, especially the exploding can. Or again, it's those topics that a logical counterpoint does not exist. But there's always someone on those hype breweries pages that are like, "Thank you so much for telling us to keep this cold. We really appreciate you looking out for the customer." And you're like, that is not what they're fucking doing, man. That is looking out for them. And I want to drop all the F-bombs in those situations too. But I think part of my experience at Boulevard, and I had an amazing, she's still one of my closest friends, but I had an amazing supervisor, boss, manager, whatever you want to call her, named Julie Weeks. And she taught me a lot about dealing with the public and, managing relationships with the media. And I consider myself a graduate of the Julie Weeks School of Personal Betterment. And, she pulled me aside once and she goes, you're in danger of becoming a pariah if you don't figure out your tone and the way you say things. And you have the opportunity to be a great influence on this industry if you want to, or you have the opportunity to be an ass. And I think I know which one I want you to choose. And I think I know which one you should choose as well. And just really thinking about how I say things and really, I wrote a set of personal guidelines once, and one of those was that every tweet is a silo. And that means that everything that I say can and will be taken out of context at some point. And it sucks when it happens, when you mean well and something gets pulled out of context. But the reality is not everybody that follows me or everyone that reads one of my tweets is familiar with my entire body of work. So they don't always have the context of, oh, he's sarcastic, or this is how he feels about this. So I've really tried to think about those things, especially as it relates to the industry. I think my feelings about, certain political figures in the state of Missouri aside, I just kind of let those go. But I really have tried to think about, like, if someone were like just getting into beer and like they just learned that beer Twitter is a thing and they open the door to the room of beer Twitter, would they open that door and go, oh shit, no way, I'm not coming in here, or this is a good place? And I think that's something that we all need to think about from time to time, is what we as beer Twitter sort of represent and the picture that we paint to outsiders.
I think it was probably close to 8 years ago. You and I were on the roof of Boulevard Brewing Company drinking a beer and talking about the potential of how cool it would be to collaborate our two breweries at that moment. And that collaboration did come to life. It was a great beer. The industry has changed such a dramatic amount, in my opinion, since then.
Oh yeah.
Better or worse, in your opinion? And what do you see as the industry? I mean, our listeners get to listen to the three of us blow off steam about the industry on
Sure.
a fairly regular basis, but where do you see the industry now? Pros, cons coming out of it?
I mean, I think the thing that the guys like you have to realize is that we were having that experience 8 years ago, and there are people who own breweries who were in high school then. Like, the industry has changed so much in those 8 years that I always remember when I first started at Boulevard, there was a guy named John Bryan who worked for the brewery, and I was like, I want to be that guy when I grew up. And I think a lot of people know who he is, and if you don't, I feel sorry for it, because he was an amazing dude. But he was an older guy and just had this amazing perspective of things, that he knew that the Boulevard that he worked at, 10 years before I worked there, had changed and morphed. And he told me that the Boulevard that I worked at the time was going to change in the time that I worked there. And I think the industry is the same, man. I think as we grow further and become more mainstream, we have less of an ability to sort of hold on to it and steer it through the guardrails, or like the bumpers that you put down in the bowling alley. It's just so big at this point that we don't have that ability. And the industry means so many things to so many different people. Near the end of my time at Boulevard, I used a metaphor that I thought was apt, and I think applies here, is that we all work, whatever brewery you work at, you can think about that physical location, where it is and what it looks like and what happens there. But there's a brewery that you work at in your brain that's representative of your perspective and your experience in that brewery. So as a sales and marketing guy, the four hands that I work at now is different than the four hands that our head brewer works at. And it's different than the one that our graphic designer works at. And it's different than the one that our founder works at. But ideally, all of those mental breweries are still on the same block to each other. They're close enough. And I think right now, the industry is exploding in such a way that I don't think that we all have the same industry is on the same block with each other anymore. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I think it makes it more difficult to make more, broad reaching, more blanket statements about the industry. I will say that I think more people drinking what we call craft beer or better beer is a good thing for all of us. I just hope that everyone's first craft beer experience is a good one, and that they have a quality beer that makes them say, I want to try this again, versus, holy shit, craft beer is terrible. I'm never having this again. I'm going back to what I was drinking before. But I think for me, what I'm seeing the most of, especially in Kansas City and St. Louis in particular, is breweries are building their brands and their breweries and their business plans to be more niche right now. And no one is, maybe someone is doing this somewhere. And if they are, I want to tell them, stop, don't do it. No one is building breweries right now thinking we're going to be in all 50 states in 5 years, because that is not going to happen. That's not a realistic approach to starting a brewery. And I wouldn't want that. If somebody gave me $20 million to start a brewery tomorrow, I'd buy an island and get the hell out. I'd be like, yep, see you later, man. I'm gone. But yeah, if you're starting a brewery right now, like, you should focus on your neighborhood. The people that can walk to your brewery to pick up your beer when it's fresh, and try to sell it all to them, and keep complete control over the quality chain. And And really importantly right now is keep all that money, that you're working so hard to make. So I think the beer industry is becoming much more localized to where the experiences that I have in Kansas City and St. Louis or someone in Chicago, it's weirdly less relevant to what you guys are doing in Florida or what someone in Ohio is doing. It's so strange to see all these different, I mean, breweries are all, similar. We're all doing the same thing, but our audiences right now and our intent and the way we're communicating that intent is so different that it's really hard to make a blanket statement about the industry compared to what it was back then. Like back then we knew everybody. There just weren't that many breweries. You go to a beer fest and you'd know someone at every table at every brewery. But now I go to a beer fest in Kansas City and there are people that I've never met before working for breweries I've never heard of, making beers I've never tried. So it's fun, but it's weird. And we're kind of the old guys now. And I'm 39 and
so weird, right?
Yeah, I'm not old. And I wake up thinking I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with my life. So I know I'm not that old, but compared to, the very, very new entrants, like it's so strange and hard to think about summing up everything at once. And I think I know I rambled a lot, but it's just so unique the way everybody's doing something so specialized and so relevant only to what they're doing. It's weird.
Yeah. Going back to what Joel said before about our previous brewery, we were the second production brewery pretty much in our metropolitan area when we opened up in 2012 or 2013. 12. And we got to meet like people from a lot of regional and local and national brands at beer fests because there wasn't many locals at this time. And now I don't do beer fests as much as I used to, but I can just I looked at lineups for ones before pre-COVID and I'm like, I don't know who that is. Miami? What? Fort Lauderdale? I've never heard of these people. But they're doing what I think is the right thing to be doing and being as local as possible. But we do have an issue with another thing that you said, and that is having that first impression on someone. I think there's way too much poor quality beer down here that is just going to throw a person off and go, oh, this is what craft is all about? I don't like this. And they'll never go back to it again. And I think, Phil, are you the one who asked if if we think that craft is in a better place or in a worse? Overall, we are, because there are awesome breweries that do open up with focus on quality, have good marketing behind them, and have the whole package. And there are breweries that just keep on getting better and better. And like, I remember at one point, one of our Joel's and I's previous boss had a thing where we said, what would Firestone Walker do? Yeah. And if we thought that Firestone Walker wouldn't do it, we said, we're not going to do it. It lasted for about a month, but we at least tried to implement something with people who, when we look at for quality, that they're people who just stand out as beacons of light for quality in this industry. And I think that there are other people who are opening up breweries now that are trying to be like Firestone Walker and create great quality beer. And I want to be an optimist and think that, yeah, this industry is getting better because people want to keep doing that despite the bullshit, the slushies, the exploding cans, the stealing IP and all of that.
And before you reply to that, let me just echo what Mike was saying, because
I don't even know if I really asked him a question. I was more agreeing with stuff that he said.
But I feel like Mike's in my head on this episode. It feels like that movie, What Women Want, and he's just getting the best of me at every moment by reading my mind. But I'm glad Jeremy said what he said about hoping that every person's first craft beer experience is a good one, because that is constantly my thought, no matter what brewery I'm at. Even thinking about the neighboring breweries, I don't want someone's beer to suck there either, because that could negatively affect us as well. Like if some guy drags his, Michelob drinking buddy to the brewery down the street and is like, oh, you got to try this stuff, and then it's just a bunch of disgusting garbage, or it's too bitter, it's too off-putting, whatever it is, he's not going to want to come back to our place. He's just going to go, yeah, I tried that craft beer once. It wasn't good. I'm going to stick with, whatever I drink. But, I think I'm almost like militantly concerned about that first experience, because I'm always like, anytime I hear someone be like, oh, that's good enough, or yeah, it didn't come out great, but we're going to like throw some, adjunct on it and try to hide it. Like, my argument has always been that I feel like a lot of brewery owners don't understand the hidden, uncalculable cost of lack of consumer confidence, or those customers you'll never hear from again because they're never going to buy your stuff because they tried something once that they hated that you thought was just good enough. And, because all they're thinking about is like, well, we paid for the ingredients, we paid for someone to make it, we paid to cellar it, and the electric and the water and the plumbing and everything. So they think it just has to be sold. And I'm the complete opposite direction. I think good breweries dump bad beer. So, I would just say that while I agree in the sense of, I hope everyone's first experience is a good one and we bring more people into the fold, I just worry about the normalization of all the poor quality we've seen, whether it's exploding cans, stolen IP, chunky beer, the works,
And all of those reasons, I will say, are the reason why I think the industry is better. Stolen IP, slushy machines, vanilla in IPAs, all of that. It's yes. What a time to be alive.
I think it's all about, and something I talk about a lot is intent and accurate execution of intent. Did you make what you set out to make, and are you happy with that? And I think sometimes, people, like you're talking about, well, we'll just add this to it to do this. Well, is that what you were hoping to do? Is that what your goal was? And I think you're absolutely right. People sometimes won't know better, but it's our job to know better, and it's our job to do better in that situation. And I'm not saying everything needs to be amazing all the time, and it's not going to be. Some beers are just okay. It's good. This is a good beer. It's not going to blow my mind, but if you set out to make this style of beer and something happened and it's no longer that style, you can't fix it. Nothing magic happens in the bright tank or the treatment tank. Or I've had this conversation with homebrewers a lot. It's like, well, I'm going to bottle it and see what happens. Like, we're going to waste your time bottling shitty beer. Nothing's going to happen that's magic in bottle conditioning. You're just, don't do that. Just dump the beer now. And I've always said, if you can't afford to dump beer, you can't afford to open a brewery.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to sort of tie a ribbon around this gift and sort of seal it away. But before we do that, Jeremy, we do like to ask one question, and I'm going to have Joel ask that question because he loves this question. He came up with this question. Joel, go ahead.
Okay, what is your go-to Taco Bell order?
Oh man, I'm pissed because I'm a Mexican pizza guy, and I'm going to burn Taco Bell down. If you're listening, Taco Bell, I'm coming for you. I wanted to go like full on Karen online that night and like, at Taco Bell, we have a problem. I don't know what the hell I'm going to eat now. Yeah, I go the Mexican pizza meal, and I need that Blue Mountain Dew. And if you don't have the Blue Mountain Dew, I don't really want my whole meal. That's just part. I know it's stupid, but that Blue Mountain Dew is part of it, man. I need it. My wife she likes Taco Bell a lot. She'll get it on her way home from work. And I've been experimenting with other meals. I've been seeing other Taco Bell combos, trying to get over the Mexican pizza, and it's not going well.
Do you feel dirty when you see those other
dude.
meals?
No, it's like if there's a bar that has an amazing pork tenderloin, you're like, I'm going to get something different. And then you're like, I should have gotten that goddamn pork tenderloin, man. What am I doing? And every time with the Mexican pizza, that's where I'm at. I'm like, this is good, but it's not a Mexican pizza. I'm so sad.
And what's funny is when you read the article about them getting it off the menu, it seems like one of their primary purposes is to reduce, their carbon footprint and the paper product, they use to serve that to you, the container it comes in. And then someone sent me a link saying Taco Bell is testing hot wings out in the, various markets. And I'm thinking to myself, you want to reduce paper by getting rid of the Mexican pizza and then introduce a menu item that's going to make people ask for 4,000 napkins.
Right. I saw a great tweet where someone was like, I don't care, Taco Bell. put the Mexican pizza in my hand in the drive-through. I'll take it. I'm like, yes, I'll bring my. As a father, I have a very extensive collection of Tupperware, and I'm sure that I have one that is the appropriate diameter to hold the Mexican pizza, man.
I think they should have a pizza launcher like the Ninja Turtles did.
Yes.
Just
Can we
shoot
talk
those
about-
Mexican pizzas out of a gun.
Can we talk about that for another 40 minutes, please?
Well, we will definitely have to have you back for that topic. But Jeremy, thank you so much for jumping in and discussing status.
Do you
of
want
the
to plug
industry.
anything?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, if you want to follow me, I'm Jeremy_Danner on Twitter. The brewery is the number 4 Hands Brewing Co. on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And if you're listening to this and you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. I'm not even going to tell you who to vote for. I just want you to vote. 5 years ago, I tweeted that I think voting is dumb, and that was one of the dumbest things I've ever said. Please vote.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, thank you on behalf of United We Drink. Have a good evening, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
A big thank you to our friend Jeremy for coming onto the show. Neglected to mention during our conversation, former sexiest man in craft beer, according to this podcast. I don't
It's
remember
true. I
what
forgot
year.
about that. think he
Phil,
was the
also a
second one.
former sexiest man in craft beer, according to this podcast.
It's weird.
Yeah. If you have any of those old episodes from the first run, please delete them because they're probably not good. But yeah, thank you to Jeremy. I mean, that dude has been someone who I've followed for a long time and always look at him as a little bit of an inspiration for how much that he has gotten involved in this industry, because I feel like I have myself, and whether I like to or not. I mean, that dude has been a prominent voice in this industry for a while.
That interview went by so quickly. I felt like it was a tenth of the time we spent with Pete from Metro. And I wish we had more time with him. We definitely got to bring him back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for all of us to have a relationship going in, it wasn't really even more of an interview than, for me, it was catching up with somebody that I haven't seen in such a long time. So I literally cannot wait to get back out to Kansas City. It's one of my favorite places to go to, one of my favorite places to eat. All of the meats. It's such an amazing part of the United States.
Just the absolute nicest people in the world. And they're lobbying for me to move there instead of Chicago.
Well, there's one hell of a college basketball team right
Yeah, I
around
don't
the
give a shit
corner in
about that.
Lawrence as well.
So I think, do you guys got last calls?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll get mine out of the way first. I didn't get a chance to do this on the last episode because we didn't really do last calls, Phil, because Joel got dropped from the call, blah, blah, blah. Joel has
Everything's my
technical
fault.
difficulties. We know. But
It's last call time.
I just wanted to say that since then, my Philadelphia Flyers came to an end of their run for the Stanley Cup, and Phil's Lightning are not off to a great start for the Stanley Cup. Just going to throw that in there because he stuck his tongue out at me. But I am really liking what I see in this team. I am really liking what I saw from Alain Vigneault for his first year as the head coach. Get rid of Michel Therrien as the power play coach because he didn't do shit for that power play. But our veterans in Giroux and Voracek, I love what we have that they're doing with the younger stars and the young guys who are coming up through this system. We have a goalie that I think that we can feel confident in for the first time since Hextall was a goalie, and he was most recently a GM for the team in Carter Hart. I'm proud of what the Flyers did this season in this weird, wacky season that they had. And I am super happy to bleed orange and black when the ice is frozen and the teams are taking the ice. And I look forward to what that team can do over the next few years. Fly or die, anytime, anywhere. Here we go, boys. Looking forward to the next season. Let's see what we can do. Phil?
Side comment on that, I think the NHL really has the bubble thing down right. I have watched more hockey, I believe, than I probably ever have in my entire life because I find myself watching all the other games, and the competition, even without a crowd, is still there. The players are just as into it. It's awesome. It's a little bit different than what I'm seeing week in and week out with the NFL. But for my last call this week, I would like to shout out to the guys over at Bitter Units. United We Drink sort of did an overrun of their podcast. Joel's episode just aired this past week. I believe mine's coming out next week. But
I'm not on it.
Not yet, Mike. We talked about that on my episode, so I sort of pitched you to come in and do a seltzer with them. Those guys, they review, if you haven't listened to the podcast, they review beer on the second half of their podcast, and the beer that I reviewed was Saison de Pont, and I think we talked about it a little bit on our podcast last, but I really shout out to the classic styles. I found myself wandering through the aisles of a Total Wine this past week and looking at all of the crazy beers that are out there, and then made a turn and went down the import aisle and ran into familiar friends, Saison de Pont, Samuel Smith, Gaffel Kolsch. All of these beers are fantastic two-style examples of what real beer used to be and still is, in my opinion. I'm challenging. I'd like to put a challenge out there for within the next month of this. Go out and grab the beer that got you into craft beer that is one of those classic styles. Try it and think about where you have come from way back whenever, be it a year, 6 months, maybe it was last week you got into craft beer, or maybe it was 20 years ago, and see if that beer still brings that memory, that familiar memory back to you, because I can tell you, I powered through a bottle of Saison de Pont and was really disappointed I didn't get the 750. I only got the 375, but I went back this past week and picked up another one because that beer is just so damn good, and it brought back so many really good memories of what this industry has been for me throughout, 15 years, somewhere around there at this point in time.
Such a fucking awesome beer.
I think that'd be cool for the three of us to do, and then come back on maybe the next episode. And
I was just gonna say that, maybe that's what we
should earlier. So
yeah, maybe we should for the next episode grab some beers that were our intros, and we can kind of tell some stories about those beers and what they like when we had them and what made us like them and all of that. I think that would be fun. Take a little break from some interviews, and then, yeah, that would be fun. Get for it.
Yeah. Drink them on the pod, or drink them
on the pod.
Prior.
Yeah.
So
like 2 beers.
Well, 3. There's 3 of us, or does
But no, 2 beers each. Actually, I guess
I think we all pick, and then we all go out and we buy all 3 of the beers, and we try them together.
Okay.
On the pod.
Okay.
Even better. Yeah.
You like that?
I like that. Yeah.
It's like drinking virtually with our friends.
Yeah, and all of you get to have a little inside look as to what our Slack channel is like, apparently, because we're doing all this planning on air. Joel, now that we have our next episode planned out, what's your last call?
So I'm going to do something new that I hope you guys are okay with, and feel free to do this yourselves whenever you feel like it. It's called Thank You, Love You, Fuck You. And what I'll basically do is spend my last call saying those three particular things to three particular people. So to start off, love you to my brother Hal, who helped me jump on his beast of a gaming PC for this recording. Otherwise, I probably would have had a repeat of last episode. I tried updating my computer 3 hours in advance of the podcast, and as far as I know, it's still updating out in the kitchen. Thank you to Macewank on Twitter for hooking me up with a link to the PS5 pre-order. Got that shit locked down. And fuck you to all you woke douchebags who feel like alienating and demonizing your own allies for the purpose of your performative Twitter bullshit. I'm on so many people's sides, yet they can't help but try to I feel like I've been attemptedly canceled 3 fucking times this month. And it's really annoying. And you sensitive douchebags who can't take a joke are going to love Trump's next 4 terms. So have a nice day. Thank you. Fuck you. And enjoy Arby's.
On that note.
Sorry.
No. Next time I'll let you start that off. Because it's kind of weird to then wrap the show up from there. Joel, do you want to plug anything?
Yes, I am Florida DUH Brewer on Twitter and Instagram. Also, check out my OCD adventures at Egg Symmetry on Instagram. You'll like the next one where it's just a bunch of crushed eggs because I stopped giving a shit. Yeah.
Phil?
P. Palmisano at Instagram and Dos Birigos on Twitter.
That's P. Palmisano 77 on Instagram.
Thank you. Again, completing my sentence for the second time this podcast.
I didn't complete it. I fixed it.
Corrected. Yeah. Yeah.
You can follow me at Mike Loves Beer on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow the show on Twitter at United We Drink. We're at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. We don't use that a terrible lot, but whatever. The show can be listened to on our website, unitedwedrink.com, as well as all of the major podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and the brand new announced this past week, Amazon Music now has podcasts. We were right there on launch of that service. So if you're into listening to stuff on Amazon Music, we are right there for you as well. You can support the show financially by visiting any of our major sponsors that we talk about on the beginning of the show or on our website, or by buying a shirt, button, sticker, mask, or whatever from our store, unitedwedrink.com/store. Otherwise, we will be back here in 2 weeks to talk about some beers that got us into this whole wacky world that we're in right now. For everyone here, thank you once again for joining us and listening to us and supporting us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next episode. Cheers.
Hail Satan.
All right. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jeremy Danner of Four Hands Brewing Company out of Kansas City, Missouri, correct?
The brewery's in St. Louis, but I live in
All right,
Kansas
we're going to
City.
start over again.
That's cool.
We need to do the research, Phil.
Oh man.
I have it written down right next to me. But he is the Kansas City on-premise special. So I literally read the line down below, and now we have an outtake. So